Hello everyone, welcome to the Mercury Virtual. Hope you are doing good. Today I am going to continue with your same module, that is a new module that we have studied or that we have started in the last class, that is a web application development, that is unit number 5, that is how to develop the applications or how to develop the various applications on the basis of the web, that is a web application development. So let's start with the previous class session, what we have covered in the last class. In the last class, basically we have started the new module, that is web application development. Today I'm going to continue with the same module with the new session, that is session number 2, that is the ColdFusion MX. In the last class we have studied about brief of the we can say the module, that is how to use the web application development. So let's start with the previous class session, then moves to today's topic, that is session number 2, that is ColdFusion MX, right? So in the last class we have started with this module, that is introduction to the development of dynamic web applications, that is represented or that is written by the Swin node 1. This is one of the diagram that is available. This is one of the client. Then there is a web server. Then there is a application server, database, remote host, other technology. That means whenever the client wants to communicate with the web server, that web server is provided by the clients, and that there is an application server to run the applications on the server. There is a server that is available, that is application servers. There is a remote host. There is other technology that is also used with the server or database. Then next is the database that is used with the other technologies, right? Then this is the name of the Sweeney node button and their associate. Then there is a version 2007. Then we have studied about the table of content, that is what we are going to cover in this topic or in this module. That is the session number 1, introduction, that is web pages, website, dynamic websites, CGI, Perl, AP, application program interfaces, then ColdFusion MS. So this we have covered in the last class, that's session number 1. In the today's class I'm going to continue with the session number 2, that is the ColdFusion MX. There is the data type, then variables, then flow control statement, other components. Then session number 3, that is the web market research, that includes the introduction, that includes the market research, that includes the application outline, then implementation, then exercise. So we have studied about these sessions in the last class. That is what we are going to cover in this module. And we have started with the session number 1, that is the introduction. So that is session number 1, that is the introduction, that includes the first topic is the web pages and the website. So first of all, what is the web page? So any information that is available on the page, that is known as the web page, and the collection of web pages are known as the website. So that is the web page and the websites. So the first session that we have introduced is the introduction, that contains the web pages and the website. So first is the web page. So what is a web page? And any information that is collected over the internet, that is available on the internet in the form of the information, that is known as the web page. And what is the website? That is a collection of web pages is known as the websites. So this is the introduction. That internet was initiated in the 1970s as a further development of the ARPANET. The www was developed and introduced in 1989 by Tim Berners-Lee. As I studied in the web designing also, that the Tim Berners-Lee is the father of the www, who has introduced the www in 1989, and Robert Caluni in the European Particle Physical Laboratory, that is known as the SUN, that is the internet tool for the collaborative knowledge sharing. So if I want to share the knowledge in a collaborative way, that is a collaborative knowledge sharing. It became in short time very popular, and today the www comprises a large number of computers that makes the file available through the internet according to the hypertext transfer protocol, that is the HTTP. So if there is any HTTP that is available, so that is how to use the HTTP in environment, that is done by the HTTP. Now today it is estimated that more than 250 M people, that is 250 max people, or more than 250,000 people, million people worldwide using the web. That is nowadays everyone is using the web. If I want to search anything, I can use the web. That is HTTP demand is very growing in a day-to-day scenario. Now, as I studied or as I told you, that the visible contents of a web file is known as a web page. So if I want to see the contents of a web page, or if I want to see the contents of a web file, that is known as a web page. Now, if the web page is prepared according to the HTTP protocol, it can be transferred from a host computer using the appropriate software to a requesting client through the internet. So whatever the requesting client, whatever the appropriate software that is available, that is used with the internet, that is used with the client through the internet. And most pages are prepared by means of the tag based language, that is HTML, that is frequently supplemented with some additional tools. So there are some additional tools that is supplemented by the tag based language scenarios, and if the requesting client has a necessary browser software installed. So if there is any necessary browser software installed, so the file received can be displayed, and if wanted, a new request can be granted. So there is a new request that can be granted over the file, that is a browser software installed, that can be displayed with the help of the new request. A website is usually a set of the web files that is hosted by a computer running a web server. So if there is any web server that is available, so website is generally a collection of the file. As I told you that website, what is a website? That is a collection of web pages that is running on a web server. Design and implementation of a website has several aspects. There are multiple parts by which we can design our website that is designed by the web server. The first is the content embedded in the site. So what is the main content that is embedded in the site? Then the page that is sent from the site, then the functionality of the site. These are the three parts by which we can implement the website in various aspects. The first is the content, then page, then functionality. Now the topics of a website are varying and depends on the owner's interest and the mission. So whatever the interest, whatever the mission that is available, that is generated by the owner's interest and the mission, that is the topics of the website. So that depends on the website. If I am using website for the knowledge purpose, that is a different website. If I am using for the any other purposes, that is a different website. For schools, there are different websites. For colleges, different websites. Every criteria, everything that has a different website that have a interest and the mission. In this course, we will not in this course discuss about the appropriate pages for the web application, but we are using that how to design the web layout, that how to maintain the web layout. And the layout of the pages is a fascinated subject, and all kinds of background colors and patterns, fonts of different kinds and sizes are among the layout factors from which the designer may choose. And some pages have animation or the voice. That means the layout of the pages is very interesting concept. Some may use the background colors, some may use the patterns, fonts, sizes, animation, voice, anything that is embedded in the animation part, that is a part of the background colors and the patterns. The layout of a page is an important subject because it has a significant impact on how the receivers will receive or perceive the page. That is how the receivers will perceive the page, and so far the layout has to a great extent has been determined by the latest hype. So these are determined by the latest hypes and the layout advices, and the heuristic design tools offered have been based on the opinion. So whatever the opinion that is available, that is based on the empirical facts, and the large scale investment of the people perception of the alternative layouts are needed. So whatever the layout, whatever the empirical thought that is available, that is a limited empirical thought. That means every person is doing the investigation of the perception, whatever the layout that they are needed. However, layout is not subject of this course either. So that is not the subject of this course either. And the subject of this course is functionality required to change the web arena from basically static to dynamic. Now there are two parts by which we can change our, or by which we can judge our functionality. That may be a static, that may be a dynamic. Static means there is a constant page. If I click on the submit button, that page cannot submit the queries, cannot submit the data to the database. But if I am using the dynamic applications, whenever I submit the application, whenever I submit the page, the page, field data can be sent to the databases, can be linked to the database, can be linked to the web server, web client, SQL, anything that is used. So if I want to make the page dynamic, that is the main role, or that is the main functionality that is required to change. But till now we have studied that in the HTML we are going to create the static web page, but note how to move the data or how to link the data with another concepts. That is the main part, that is the dynamic application. It is known as dynamic because the web page is returned to the client depends on the visitor's previous interaction. So whatever the interaction, whatever the data that is available, that depends on the client because the web pages are required by the client. It is saying that the dynamic functionality can be approached in many ways. That is, it can be approached in many ways. And in this course, we limit our discussion to the functionality that is based in the server and disregard other approaches. So whatever the approach, whatever the data that is gathering, so that gather the data, that limit our discussion to the functionality that is based on the server and disregard other approaches. Now, next is dynamic website. That is, what is a dynamic website? the basic model of the web interaction is. So what is the basic model? So if I'm using the dynamic websites, if there is a website that is a web interaction, so what is the main model of the dynamic website? That is, first is a set of the pre-developed static web pages. So there is a pre-developed static web pages that are stored on the host server. So there is a set of the pre-developed. That means there is a already developed static web pages that are stored on the host server. Then a user sends a request for a web page to the host. So first is there is a predefined static pages. Then user sends a request for a web page to the host. Then the host sends a copy of the requested page to the client. So it's a functionality of the host to send a copy of the requested page to the client, and if desired, point 2 and 3 are repeated for the new pages. That means user sends a request for the web page and the host sends a copy of the requested page to the client. The service that manages the host as a node in the web is known as a web server. So whatever the node, whatever the host that is available, that is available in the node that is known as the web, that is the web server. And in the static model, the host has no ability to analyze the request. So if I'm using the static model, so the host, that is the host computer, has no ability to analyze the request and adjust the response accordingly. The response is requested pre-designed web pages. So response is what? That is a requested pre-designed web pages, and the request response exchange is therefore static. That means if there is a request response exchange that is available, that is known as that is a static web page. However, the exchange protocol that is used is the HTTP. So which protocol is used? That is known as the HTTP. That is hypertext transfer protocol, that is used to exchange a protocol, or that is used to move the data from one page to another. So that provides the possibilities for the additional items of the information that is sent with the request without any instruction from the client. So this is the client, then there is a web server, then these are the static pages. The figure number 1, that is a basic web page or web server model. Now, in the same way, if the responding host can include additional information with the response. So if there is a sending, this is the requesting. So if there is additional information that is sent out, so that usually hidden for the receiver. And the host also has a capabilities for forwarding the messages to other programs. So there is other program also that is used to forward the messages with other programs with other data that is beyond the web server, that is beyond the web databases for additional processing. So if there is additional processing that is used, so there is the data that is used for the additional processing, and these possibilities for the information processing is used behind the scenes that makes it possible to create the additional functionality. We shall use the term dynamic website to emphasize that we are not concerned with the simple set of web pages with HTML tag. So whatever the tag that is used, whatever the databases that is used with the different web pages, that is used with the content pages, that is a part of the HTML tags. So we have already studied about the HTML tags. So there are 4 basic tags that is used. The one is the HTML tag, then there is a head tag, then there is a title tag, then there is a body tag. So these are the 4 main tags that is used with the HTML. But that is used with the set of the applications, that is used with the applications in which the pages returned to the client can be dynamically adjusted to fit the individual request of the clients. So if there is a dynamic web page that is requested by the individual content, that is the HTML tag that is concerned with the HTML web pages. This course can serve as a first illustration of the dynamic website, and you have already experienced in this code that what you have submitted personal code, the system become accessible to you. Now, this is nothing but these are the various topics that we have discussed, that whenever we are using the site must know the function identity prior to the so the site must know your identity prior to your request. So if you are requesting something, so you first prove your identity before sending the request to the server or the client. So when the opening date is passed and you have passed the test at the end of the previous session, the system will respond by giving your action or access to the session. The system must be able to compare your request with its clock time and with your recorded test performances. And if a student has not completed the required test, so if the desired test that is required that is not available with the concerned person, so the host will return a message saying that the test must be done before the student can proceed. So first of all, the student or any person have to authenticate himself or herself that he is a legitimate user. And if he is a legitimate user, then provide the services, provide the resources to that person. So important characteristics of the dynamic websites are the ability to authenticate you, that is to verify your identity, that is to verify what is the or who is the user, that is identify the or verify the identity, then record your performance history, then keep track of your interactions from when you start a session and until you leave. That means authenticate means proving the identity, you are a legitimate user. Then record your performances or record your performance history, then keep track of your interaction from when you start a session and until you leave, and sometimes even from the session to session. In this course, you can, for example, request your personal progress report, and the system will generate the content of the report to you, while another student will get a completely different report. So if the another student will get a completely different report and perhaps for a different number of sessions, that is used with the authenticate user, that is used to completely authenticate user, that is used with different purposes with different reports. The next is the CGI and the Perl. That is the next part. So the first step towards dynamic web pages is the possibility for a remote client to request the execution of the process at the host. So that is the next topic is what is the CGI. So we are finished with the web pages, website, dynamic web pages, dynamic website. So next is the CGI, that is a common gateway interface. So that is concerned with the Perl, that is also a language. So the first step towards dynamic web page is the possibility for the remote client to request the execution of a process at the host. That means the first step is using, that is how to use the remote client to request the execution of the process at the host. Use of the form tag of the HTML. So remember we have studied about the form tag, and that we are using the CGI, that is a common gateway interface of the HTML, that requires, for example, that the server can perform a processing of the data that is submitted on the form. So whatever the data that is submitted on the form, that is a part of the processing, that is a part of the user data that is submitted on the form. A program must exist for this purpose at the host site, and the web server must be able to communicate with the program. So if there is a program that is available, so user must exist for the purpose that is available with the host site, and the web server must be able to communicate with this program. We will refer to such a program as a script. So there is such program is known as a script, and the addressable files in which the script is stored as a template. So whatever the addressable file that is stored as a template to avoid any confusion with other types of program. So to avoid the confusion, if there is any confusion in the script, the scripted file or the addressable files is stored as a template to avoid any confusion with other types of program, files and the pages. And the CGI, that is a common gateway interface, is a protocol. So this is nothing but a protocol that specifies how the certain scripts can communicate with web server. So if there is any script that is that want to communicate with the web server, so that can communicate with the web server with certain scripts. One of the most frequently used tool for creating such script is the scripting language Perl. So one of the most important tools for using the or creating the script that is available, or that is a scripting language, that is a Perl. And the Perl script stored in the host computer can be supplied with the data from a request. So if there is a data that can be supplied with the request, that is supplied by the Perl script. So this is nothing but the scripting language that is known as a Perl, like we have discussed about the HTML. In HTML we have also used about the CGI, that is a common gateway interface protocol. So the CGI is also used in the Perl. So that is a scripting language that is supplied with the data from the request, that is a part of the host computer. For example, sent by an HTML form. So if any information that can be sent by the HTML form, that is represented or that is scripted by the Perl, that uses the CGI, that is a common gateway interface. And the script can be designed to perform a variety of tasks such as saving and retrieving data from a database, updating a load, keeping track of the visitors, running a course, etc. It can altony, or it can also be designed to perform its task and then leave the result to the web server. So if there is a movement, then how we can leave the result into the web server that is generated by means of the script to the requesting client. Now, the programming languages that is used such as a C, C++, C Sharp, Java can also be used for creating the scripts. So these are the programming languages that can also be used to create the scripts. One reason for the popularity of the Perl. So what is the main reason for the popularity of the Perl is that the script program in Perl can be ported from one operating system to another. That is, we can easily jump from one application to one operating system to another by using the Perl. So if there is a Perl that is moving from one application or from one operating system to another, for example Windows to Linux, that can be easily transferable by the use of the Perl. Next is application program interfaces. That is the next part. So a Perl CGI application is a time consuming because Perl script must be loaded, executed and unloaded each time they are used as a interpretive programs and do not offer the flexibility that may be required. So whatever the CGI or Perl CGI application that is used, that is a time consuming process because the Perl language or script first of all have to be loaded, then executed, then unloaded. So they have to be executed, or they have to be first of all load, then executes and then unload. Each time they are used as a interpretive programs and do not offer the flexibility that may be required. And to improve the condition, to improve this limitation that there is a time consuming process, the web application interface servers were developed. So there is a server that is developed, that is a web application interface servers. An application server is a service operating behind the web server and in processing the codes which the web server does not understand and return the result to the web server for sending to the requesting client. The application server is a resource of permanently loaded executable programs, and the resources of the loaded program for Windows operating system usually written as a dynamic load library. So this is usually written as a dynamic load libraries, and DLL is also known as the, or also referred as the application program interface, that is the API. So that is a DLL, that is also referred as a API. And the benefit of using an API is increased speed and flexibility because no loading and interpretation is needed. That is, what is the main benefit? The main benefit of using the API is increased speed. So what is the main benefit? That is the increased speed and the functionality because no loading and interpretation is needed. And what is the main disadvantage? That is the API program must be implemented specifically for each type of operating system and requires more memory space. So that requires more memory space that is used with the databases, that is used with the API program. That is the main disadvantage of the API. So main advantage of the API is that there is an increased speed and the flexibility, and limitation of the API is that we can use with the various types of operating system that may be transferable from one operating system to another, that can be switchable from one part to another. The next is a ColdFusion Markup language, that is the next language. So the most well-known API tools includes the active server pages, that is the ASP, and the ASP.NET from the Microsoft, the open source software, that is the PHP, that is a hypertext preprocessor, then the inline internet system, that is the IHTML, and the ColdFusion MX. So the most basic API tool, that is the application program interface tool, that is available as the ASP, ASP.NET, PHP, inline internet system, that is the IHTML, or the ColdFusion MX. So these are the various tools, and we are leaving the comparison between these tools to the different persons, and we concentrate on the basically on the CFML or CFMX, that is the ColdFusion MX, that is developed within the ColdFusion Markup language, that is the CFML. The language in which the script is designed for the CMX is known as the CFML, that is the ColdFusion Markup languages. And the templates are recognized by their extension, that is .cfm or the CFML. So these are recognized by the extension, that is either the CFM or the CFML. And you are also referred to the section software to get the instructions for installing the necessary software on your own PC. In the previous paragraph, the advantage of using a web API instead of CGI approach was emphasized, and the CF was introduced in 1995. It started out as a scripting language based on the CGI. Later the API was developed. So first of all, the API is used instead of the CGI, then the scripting language that is used, then the API was developed. Now the latest version of the CFF MS is implemented in Java, resulting in very efficient and portable. So that is a very efficient and the portable database that is available in the Java, and API that can be easily extendable by the Java, that is the API. So API is also extendable or can also be used in a very efficient manner in the programming language that is Java. And CFMX is widely used, and among the well-known companies that we have taken advantage of CF in the development of their websites are Amazon, Dell Computers, Federal Express, and so on. Then next is evaluating a website, that is how to evaluate the websites. That is what are the various steps by which we can evaluate the websites. So before starting to improve a website, you should try to make an evaluation of its performance. So before starting to improve a website, before starting to improve that, how to improve the website. So first of all, we have to evaluate the website or evaluate the performance of the website. So evaluating a web application requires empirical data. That means if I want to evaluate the web application, that requires the empirical data. And the most obvious source is the log of the activities of the web server. That is what is the main log that is available within the activities of the web server. And the first step towards collecting data on the use of the pages was counting the number of visitors to the websites. That is whatever the visitors, whatever the counting that is used, that is available with the counting the number of visitors to the website. And the number of visitors tells the owner of the site that he or his or her site was visited at all or and how frequently. That means it is counting the number of visitors, that is the number of likes on the website, that is how many likes are available, how many comments are available on the sites. And in most web servers, an access log system is embedded, and the access log system continuously record all the requests to the server as well as the server retrieval of different files to compose the response. And whenever we are using the log, so there is a dynamic development that reflects the visit during a time interval. So the server access log usually records according to one of the several formats. That is the old NCSA Sun format, then combined NCSA Sun format, then Windows formats. These are the various logs, or these are the various formats by which the server can access the log that usually consists of the records. And the Windows format can easily be imported into the applications such as the Excel and the Access. So these are the various or the Windows format. So there are three formats that is used in this one. One is the old NCSA Sun, then combined NCSA Sun format, then Windows formats. But the Windows format can easily be imported into the applications such as the Excel and the Access. It contains the following fields, that is the date and the time, then IP address of the client, then address of the server, then HTTP request of the request or requested URL, referring URL, then browser type, then HTTP response code, then number of byte transferred, then milliseconds between arrival of the request and the log recording. So whatever the database, whatever the request that can be applied, that can be used into the application such as the Excel and the Access. That includes the following field, that is the date and the time, then IP address, then HTTP request, then requested URL, then referring URL, then browser type, and so on. And there are several obvious drawbacks that is associated with the access logs. There are multiple drawbacks is also available with the access logs for the web application research. Now what are the various drawbacks? The first, the access log is a part of the server software that is guarded by the web server admin group, and the researchers may not get the access to this log. That means we can only the admin persons, only the selected persons can access the access log, but the not general users cannot access the access log. So this is one of the limitation. Now second, the access log records all the file retrieval necessary to assemble the requested page to the client. That is access log that records all the file transfer that is available with the client, that includes the icons, images, etc., which are now needed or not needed for an application evaluation. So whatever the application evaluation, that is available with the application part. Now third, the system or the log system only recognize the client machine identifying with an IP number. That means whenever we are using the access log, so that is only the machine that is used that contains the IP address or the IP number, that is the internet protocol address. And many users are assigned different IP address by their net provider from one visit to another. So this is one also the limitation. And fourth, there are often several users sharing a client computer. There are multiple users that shares a client computer. Frequently, a more customized recording than that provided by the web server application log is needed for a satisfactory evaluation. That is, a more customized recording is also available or provided by the web server application log that is used for the satisfactory evaluation. Later in this course, we shall discuss how you can set up your own log to avoid these problems. Now next is a visit counter example. This is one of the example that is used as a visit counter example. Our first application example is a personalized course visit counter. So personalized course visit counter, it demonstrates a few properties of a dynamic website. That is how to use the dynamic websites. And a direct link to the implemented example is located at the end of this session. So there is a directed link that is used with the implemented example that is located at the end of the session or season. The example application keep track of the number of visits you have made to this course since you started your study. Now let's start with the example. The application script consists of the two templates. So the application script that is available, that consists of two templates. The template used as the entering as example is by convention known as the index.cfm. So there is an index, there is a convention that is available that is known as the index.cfm to avoid the unwanted public listing of your template. That is, there is a CFM, that is a extension that is used to avoid the unwanted public listing of your template. So to avoid what are the various public listings, so there is a template that is available is the index.cfm. This template personalizes the response to your call for the example and remember the number of visits. So this template personalizes the response to the example and remember what are the various number of visits that is available with the visit counter of the template. These are the various lines, that is the index.cfm, then cf query name equals to visits, then database or data source equals to db. Then what is the main, so that means this query is name has a visit in the database or the data source that is available as a db, that is a database. Then what is the main query? The select first name visits, that means select the first name and the visits from the table users where access code is equals to the number of session.pin number. That is, if when the access code is the session.pin number, that is a number of session, that is the number of session.the.pin number, that is the access code. So this is a condition. So select the first name and the visit from the users with the access code is equals to the number of session.pin number. Then there is a CF query that is closed and the CF output that is open. So this is CF query that is closed, open over here. This is closed over here. Then there is a CF output. Then div align equals to center. That is align equals to center. That is a division align equals to center. Then h1. Then font color equals to blue. That is what is the font color? That is blue. Then font size equals to +3. Then number of visits dot first name hash site visitor name, then the font close, then h1 close. So this is represented in heading 1, that is h1, that is the font color blue, then font size 3, then visit first name, that is the font closed. Then p, that is a paragraph, then b, that is a bold, that is what is in the bold, that is a number of visits dot first name, then b close, then the number of visits you have made to the course until the time format now, and so on, then B font, then color, this one, then the div will be closed, then the CF output will be closed. Now all these lines, all these CFF MX templates are identified by the extension .cfm, that is a CFM extension, and line 1 is a comment line that is used here to refer to the name of the template. That is a line 1 is a comment line, so this is the comment line, this is used as a comment line, that is the index.cfm, and the comment tag is similar to the HTML comment tag, nothing else, but has 3 dash dash dash. So there are 3 dash dash dash, that is a commenting line that is available with that is used with the first line, that is the dash dash dash, while the HTML comment has 2. That means in the CFM X template there are 3 dash, and in the HTML comment there are 2 dash. Except for this tag, all ColdFusion starts and end tags begin with the CF and the closing of CF respectively. At this stage, we will postpone the detailed discussion of the CFM-MX tag and limit our usage with the general issues. Now, lines 3 and 4 illustrate the CF query, that is whatever the CF query that is used. So that is this is the CF query, that is a select first name and the last name with this one to exchange the data with the database, and the statement between these tags is a regular SQL select statement used to retrieve the user first name, and the number of records visited from the database refers to the DB. That means, in other words, this application assumes that the users are recorded in a database, and that the users data and that their number of the visits are updated in the database each time they log in. So whenever they log in into the database, they are available as a database. There are multiple number of visits that are uploaded or updated in the database every time the user log in into the data. The term number of session.pin number refers to the string that you submitted as your access code. That is, this is the number of session, that is a string that you submitted with as a access code. Then lines 5 to 9 output the query result from the database. That is a line 5 to 9, that is a database that is used with the database. There is one more important that you should observe, that the visit first name and the visits. This is the visits visit, this is the visits first name. The surrounded hash indicates refers to the value of the included name variable, in this case first name, and the visit respectively in the retrieved query, that is visit. Now in the next session we are going to study about the syntax of CML in more detail. Right. This is the exercise that we have to do. Now session number 2 is ColdFusion MX, that is the ColdFusion Markup languages, right? Session number 2, that is a ColdFusion MX, so that is a session number 2. So that is a session number 2, that is a ColdFusion MX, that is written in the CFML, that is a ColdFusion Markup language. So CFML is a tool by which we can express our ideas, conditions, goals for the application in this course. So in this course we are going to study, or in this course we are going to study about the CFL or CFMLL or CFML that is used to express the ideas, conditions and the goals for the application in this course. CFML is a tag-based scripting language. So this is a tag-based scripting language. That means in this we are using the tags, that like the HTML tag. So that is known as the tag-based scripting language. As in any other programming language, CFML has its own syntax. So there is own syntax that is developed in the CFML. So there is no syntax that is similar to the HTML, but that is a CFML language, that is a ColdFusion Markup language, have their predefined syntax that can be intermixed with the HTML. That can be, not always, but that can be intermixed with the HTML. And as a scripting language, it has borrowed a number of concepts from the Perl and other programming language. So as a scripting language, it has borrowed a number of concepts from the Perl and other programming languages also, that is developed to use the programming languages. So that is used with the scripting language, that is used with the Perl. A CFMX script is stored in one or more file with extension .cfm. So there is a CFMX script that is available in one or more file. that is stored with the extension .cfm, and these files are referred as the CFML extensions or templates. So that we have studied in the last class also, that is how to use the CFML that is studied or that is stored in one or more file that is have the extension that is .cfm, and these files are referred as the CFML templates. And the extension makes it possible for the web server to identify which requests it should pass onto the CFMX application server. That is, what are the various requests, what are the various web server extension that is passed to the CFMX application server, and no harm is done if a usual HTML page is named with the .cfm extension. So there is no harm that is done if the usual or if a usual HTML page is uncounted or is named, that is a normal CFML page is named with a .cfm extension, but a CFML template with a .html or HTML extension. So there is no harm if they are using the .cfm extension, but there is a harm, there is a harm that when they are using the .html or .html extension, because that not work with the course. In this course we use the .cfm extension for all the templates. So in this course that we are going to study, we are using only the .cfm extension for all the templates. The first difference that you will observe between the HTML pages and the CFML template is the CF tag that is permitted in the later. That is, there is a CFML tag that is available in the, or CF tag that is permitted in the later, that is available in the CFML tags. And all the CFML tags starts with the two letter CF, and most CF tags comes in the pair. So most of the CF tags that comes in the pair, that is a starting tag and the closing tag, that is a CF and the closing of the CF, right? And when you try to view the source of the page, that is scripting by the HTML or CFML template that is used, so that is used with the view source opinion in your browser, that will only see the HTML code for the display, and the .cfm template which generated the HTML display will not be available for the client. And CFML has the following components. So if I'm using the CFML, so it has the following component. What are the various following components? That is the data types, then variables, then expressions, then control statements, then other components. So these are the following elements that is included in the CFML. Now that is the data type, then there is a variables, then expressions, then control statement, then other components. And in this session we will review each component. This session is a brief summary of the CFML. For more detail and precise description, you are referred as the RBB. That is, special topics are discussed in each session and illustrated by the implemented example that you can run, copy, modify, and try on your PC. So these are the following elements that is a part of the CFML, that is a ColdFusion Markup languages, and we are going to discuss each and every part component in detail, that is data type, variable, expression, and so on. So that's all for today's session. In the next class, that is in tomorrow's class, I'm going to start with the components of the CFML in detail. So first component is data type. So we will start with the first component, that is the data type. So that's all for today's session. If there is any